So we'll get started. We'll go to our next slide here. Um, so today, I am really excited about this. Just thank you all for joining. Thank you for putting your beer in the chat and where you're from. We're of course excited to see everyone from everywhere. But today's focus is on how ServiceNow is bringing together ITSM, so IT Service Management, and IT Operations Management, ITOM, with Service Operations Workspace as that central hub to make these capabilities work seamlessly for your organization. So the focus today is service reliability management. I'm excited about that because sometimes we see SOW as just ITSM, but what it's really intended to do is bring ITSM and ITOM together. So that's what today is about. We've done a lot throughout the months here. And I want to just go ahead and say this first. So
Mhm.
this, of course, is our safe harbor slide, which is there to keep our lawyers happy. I say that every time if you are a repeat customer here. To summarize what it says, you may see some forward-looking statements today, but please don't make any purchasing decisions based on anything in today's webinar. And also, before we get started, let's say that before we jump in, I just want to go over the housekeeping things. Please use the Q&A button. I'm going to say that again. Please use the Q&A button. It gives us the opportunity for someone else to see your question, and we are able to document your questions at the end of the webinar. The chat doesn't necessarily document for us, but the Q&A does. So use the Q&A button off your screen to ask any questions you may have on today's session. We'll try to answer them throughout the session or at the end. We do have a bunch of gurus on the call to answer your questions. And then at the bottom of the screen, you'll find the reaction buttons. Give us a quick reaction to let us know you found it. I don't know if you know it. Okay, we'll wait for that. Oh, we got some reactions. A heart, some party. Okay, thank you. Great. So now let's feel free to react in the Q&A along today's presentation. We'll also be sharing today's presentation and the recording after the event and the registration, I think, a landing page that we have for the Academy series. We have a lot of reactions here. Pigs, beers. After this webinar, you will be prompted to fill out a short survey. Your feedback is super valuable to us. And so if you have the time, please take the survey after this. All right, so let me introduce myself. You may have met me before if you've been to the SOW Academy series. I'm Brittany Lassiter. I'm a Senior Product Excellence Manager where I help increase the adoption of ServiceNow ITSM products for customers. I have been a customer myself and a partner, just like some of you on the call, for about 10 years. During that time, I was an IT service manager, process owner for numerous processes, and an IT ServiceNow consultant. So I've been where you are. I'm now integrated in ServiceNow today. And we also have some great speakers, so I'll hand it over to Mike.
Howdy, thanks all. My name is Mike Gallagher. I'm an ITOM pre-sales specialist. This picture is me doing my best genie impression. And I have, I lovingly joke that if it has a one or a zero in it, I've probably managed it at some point in my career. I've done software development, database administration. I ran ops for a cloud provider here in Denver, Colorado for a while. And I was a TAM at VMware where I helped manage some of the largest vSphere deployments on the planet. And then ServiceNow picked me up in 2020, and I fell straight into the IT operations management suite, and really have gotten very involved in containerization and Kubernetes and all things nerdy on that front. And then I took a short break, an 18-month break to go run the platform for a customer from 23 to middle of 24. It was a wonderful experience, yet another trench I have lived in, and I'm glad to be back having conversations like this. So thanks for having me, Brittany.
Of course. And now let's introduce some of our gurus. Will, would you like to get started?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. My name is Will Hallam. I'm a solution consultant focusing on ITOM. and been at ServiceNow for 4 years. Before that, I was a customer for 6 years, really just focusing in all things related to the IT operations management arena.
And
Jack?
and hey everybody, Jack Covert here. I too am an ITOM solution consultant, and I've been with ServiceNow for about 5 years. As a customer before that, and I've been in IT in all sorts of roles. Not as many roles as Mike, but in a lot of roles since like the 90s. So happy to be here with you guys. Mike?
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Hart. Same role as the other gurus here. I cover the West Enterprise for retail, hospitality, technology, media, and telecommunications. And I've been at ServiceNow for 6 years, and I'm based out of Denver. So nice to meet everyone.
All right. Thank you so much. We have so much to cover today. And I just wanted to give some background of this Academy series. With the SOW Academy series, we want to help customers and partners effectively utilize and configure SOW features and achieve the maximum value in empowering our admins and gearing up our process owners with all the information they need. So I know that there's a couple of people online that gave a feedback about the adoption series. It's a little bit a higher level overview. This is more a detailed and technical overview. And as you can see, we've been doing this since June, and we have our last session in December to end off the year in a great note. But I'm excited for today, the November 13th today, service reliability management, and that's what we're going to be focused on today. With that, we'll be having an overview of SOW. So, of course, this is the Service Operations Workspace Academy series. How does that relate to the ITOM and ITSM service reliability piece? And then, of course, putting or working together with ITSM and ITOM and improve that service reliability. And of course, what you guys are all waiting for are the demos. And we will be going over a demo of SRM in use, real world scenarios, and then SRM configuration. So something for our admins, something for our process owners, and our users and stakeholders. And that being said, you know, we have some polls. If you've been here before, we want to learn about our audience here. So let's start off with a couple of polls. What's your primary role? And let me put it up. I always have difficulties. Let's see the poll here, and I'm going to launch it. So go ahead and answer. But what's your primary role and level of influence implementing Service Operations Workspace? Okay. Got some admins. Admins are winning. Process owners, end users. Okay, someone's other, they're a partner. Thank you for letting us know. Okay, I'm going to end the poll around, oh yeah, we can end it now. So share our results. We have a lot of admins here. That's great. And process owners, and some end users, leaderships. This is awesome that we have all of you guys in a variety. And we'll be showcasing things that relate to each and every one of you all. So, and then we have one last poll here. So let me bring that up. Poll number 2. So where are you in your service operations workspace implementation journey? So are you just starting, actively configuring, partially implemented? Right now we have 0 not planning on implementing SOW. That is awesome because we want everyone to just have the joy. Okay, we got 1. Have the joy of SOW. And we'll end the poll in about 5 seconds. All right, we're going to end the poll and I'll share the results. Just so you can see where your peers are, and it's good to know where we see you. It sounds like, or we have the most partially implemented with some SOW features live, but want to expand more, and you're in the right place. So that's perfect. I'll stop sharing that, and we can go to our next slide. So I'll hand it over to Mike.
Thanks. So we'll start off with an overview of what is SRM, what is service reliability management, and kind of talk through that, some of the background. and then we'll go from there. If you want to go forward to the next. So, what's the intent of service reliability management? The whole goal is to provide a distributed, guided experience so that teams can self-service and manage their technical services and the ingestion of data and automations against against those services and responses, right within the IT operations workspace, excuse me, the service operations workspace, in order to be able to combine both the IT operations pieces and the IT service management pieces all in one single spot with one single workflow. You want to go ahead? All right, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the background around the modern IT practices and where they're moving and why this is important. So traditionally, we've primarily lived within the IT operations world within this mode one, where you have centralized governance and centralized management teams, and all of that stuff all effectively becomes a bottleneck that is where mode two is coming into play. So mode two is more distributed teams that are empowered to own the entirety of the technology stack for the application services that they are responsible for. Everything from the actual running processes all the way down to the underlying technology pieces. And so the ability to monitor, manage, and control all of those components and all of those pieces needs to live in a more distributed model with those teams that are ultimately responsible for providing that. However, what we're finding in most cases that we have a hybrid operating model where some teams are centralized, some services are centralized where they make more sense, and then application teams are still living in this more distributed mode, but they're consuming some of those more centrally managed services. So one of the key tenets of service reliability management is to put as much power as possible into those distributed teams' hands while still providing centralized governance and management over that. And I'll dive into that a little bit more in the next couple of slides. So, a key term to understand when we start thinking about service reliability management is, what is an SRE? How is that kind of loosely defined within the industry, and why does it matter in this case? So, SRE is a term that was coined by Google that was really built to provide the software engineering principles and apply them to managing the reliability of an entire system of applications and the stacks and all of the components that are necessary to provide those systems, or in our case, services, right? So some of the key components are automating tasks, establishing service level objectives, right? Which is really critical to be able to track and monitor and manage how effectively are you meeting your goals for the reliability of this service. Managing incident response and root cause analysis, and balancing development velocity with system reliability. And when you get down to it, every single one of those bullet points is something that can be provided by or enabled by a key component within the ServiceNow platform, most of which lives within the service operations workspace, right? I won't go into the benefits to your organization, right? It's up to you guys if you guys want to go and deploy the SRE model. But if you're already moving down that road, understand that service reliability management and service operations workspace are here to really help enable that process and that change. And I'll dig into a little bit more in the next couple of slides. So, some of the key concepts and terms that we need to define as we're thinking about service reliability is these key terms here. So, what is a service level agreement, right? This is something that we're all likely familiar with because it already exists in multiple different places in the platform. And so we don't really dive too much into it within SRM, but it's a key point to understand. An SLA is like, what are the contractual obligations? And then an SLO generally is in support of that SLA to ensure that we're not going to breach our SLA, right? So an SLO is an objective that says, when do we need to take action, right? What action do we take, right? So that's how do we understand that what's our trigger? And that is driven by a service level indicator, right? An SLI. So an SLI is, what are we measuring in order to meet or define that service level objective, right? So for example, and we'll show it here in the presentation today, measuring the availability of a service. But some other key components can be response times, latency, bandwidth throughput. There's all kinds of different particular indicators that you can measure in order to track your service level objectives. And then error budget is basically how much of that service level objective can we spend, right? How much do we have available to kind of like fudge with for things like minor failures or deployments or things like that, right? So an error budget is basically a tracking of the consumption of your service level objective over time. And it can be used to inform whether or not you're going to accelerate changes because, hey, we're doing fine on our error budget. Let's accelerate our pace of change and deliver more features, right? Knowing that with new features comes a greater risk of consumption of that error budget. Or, hey, we're already burning through our error budget too fast. Let's slow down on the pace of change, and then therefore we're less likely to consume our error budget and therefore breach, our SLO targets and ultimately breach our SLA. So that being said, we'll dig into all of this in the platform, but I wanted to clearly kind of like delineate what those are. And we'll continue to press on. Excuse me. There we go. So what are some of the key challenges that are faced, and how does SRM kind of help provide that, right? We talked about this a little bit at the outset. The centralization of the different operating teams becomes a bottleneck, right? I'm sure nobody wants to hear that term, but people feel it all the time. Everybody's asking you for a million different things. They want to jam a ton of different stuff into the ServiceNow platform or whatever other platforms you may be managing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it becomes basically a cost benefit analysis. And what happens is the smaller, more mobile teams end up getting deprioritized. And so having that be a more distributed model is going to help enable faster growth, faster change. Teams want to be empowered to be able to build their own stuff, set up their own automations, set up their own on-call, set up their own service level objectives, and take some of that pain out of the platform owner's hands. Because in large part, the central IT teams are really struggling with maintaining the reliability of all of those apps and being able to support those more distributed teams, which results in point solutions being deployed by those more distributed teams. And we have shadow IT where somebody goes and puts, some on-call monitoring platform on their company credit card and charges it because we don't have a solution yet that's more broadly centrally managed. So the key thing is, how do we enable all of that stuff within the ServiceNow platform in order to provide distributed management with centralized visibility and centralized governance? And that's one of the key points. Just quickly checking in on Q&A. Looks like we're jumping on that. Thanks, everybody. So history and vision, right? How did we come to this? Why did we build this out, right? The whole goal was to come up with a capability that was native to the ServiceNow platform and utilized both ITOM and ITSM workflows. It was at its core designed for distributed team-based ownership and had limited to no dependency on centralized admins, right? Give all of the distributed teams the necessary power to do what they needed to do in order to do that without having to go to the admin teams, but while still providing appropriate guardrails, right? So that's really what we've delivered and built. And the whole point is to enable you guys to, as you're looking down the SRE model or moving to more distributed management models, service reliability management within the service operations workspace is there to help provide that guidance and provide that capability. So, a couple of the key capabilities of service reliability management, right? This distributed setup and a guided experience, as well as governance and kind of like guardrails around what teams can do and how teams need to run their own individual pieces. Service registration and management, you can ingest existing services, you can build new services, you can track and manage SLOs and SLIs right within the platform. And you can use error budgets to be able to build out automations to trigger once an error budget threshold is crossed, and we'll show you some of that. We also have significant integrations. We already have a ton of third-party tool connectors to integrate with APM tools. Most teams are already deploying these APM tools in order to manage the health of the services that they're assigned to manage. So why not ingest those important metrics into the ServiceNow platform so they can track, manage, and have centralized visibility there? And then where we don't have an already pre-built connector, we have some custom generic connectors like push APIs, things like that, to enable teams to be able to ingest data from a not supported tool currently. And then last but not least, automations, right? Give SREs and SRE teams the ability to define their escalation paths, to define enrichment actions, and to define grouping and automations to go and resolve issues at the time that they come up. So a couple of key use cases, and then we'll get into the demo here shortly. So service reliability, right? It's all about empowering cross-functional teams to collaborate quickly and easily, getting on-call management. This is something I won't dive into too deeply today. There is on-call management that is core to the ServiceNow platform, as well as notification capabilities. Both of those are core to the ServiceNow platform and are key pieces of the service operations workspace. Service reliability management heavily makes use of both of those things, but I won't dig into them too deeply today because they are covered elsewhere. Reliability metrics, right? The ability to track it and provide visibility across the entire organization so that at the executive level, not only can you see and talk to those teams directly, but you can have dashboards of here are the service level objectives across all of the services that roll up underneath my team and my organization. Proactive incident management, being able to trigger and create incidents based on more properly defined use cases that can be done by those autonomous teams, really super useful. Root cause analysis is another big piece of it. When you do all of your incidents and all of your changes in the same core platform, the ability to correlate those two together as part of the root cause analysis processes is as absolutely magic. And then, of course, the organizational wide visibility enables continuous improvement, right? We have the ability to be able to track these processes, understand how we're running against our SLOs, and then be able to optimize resources towards the areas where they're needed most. Okay, so I'm going to actually dive into the platform, and I'm going to start off with um, what what does a platform owner, excuse me, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to show you it in use first, as a more of a kind of like demo, and then I'll show you kind of some of the configuration components post that. So. Um, I am signed in as Amelia Bryant, and Amelia Bryant is an operator.
Mike, are you sharing your screen?
I am.
Okay, let's try again.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Can everyone see? I think so. All right, perfect.
Okay. Okay, so we can see all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Amelia is an operator, right? She works within the service desk and is responsible for looking at incidents and alerts and trying to figure out what's going on, right? And so she is logged in for the day and sees, hey, we've got some services and some SLAs that are going on. So let's go and take a look at the service dashboard and see what's happening in the process. So she sees that, hey, we have these four services that are highly mission critical, that are going to be impacting services within the environment. So let's take a look at it. So we're going to pop open this filter services by alert button, and we're going to see where all of these critical alerts are coming from. And you can see that we've grouped these up by using our IT operations management suite. We're grouping these together and doing noise reduction and correlation on them. And so we've surfaced those up to Amelia and attached them to the services. So she's going to dig in and start to look around and see exactly what's going on. So there's 10 alerts in this group. It looks like we've got an elevated error rate. We've got some anomalies detected. Some request counts are abnormal. But Amelia is not an expert within this particular platform, and so she's actually going to use Gen AI to analyze it and give some high-level summarization and some maybe some next steps, right? So, hey, it looks like we're having some issues. A threshold violation that's critical has been violated. Potentially there's an app that's under significant stress. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on there. So she's going to actually jump into the incident to review to see if anybody's already picked up the incident and is already working on it. And it doesn't really look like it just yet. So what she's going to do is she's going to use the experts on call button over here, right? So because this is related to a particular service, and that service is defined with an on-call team, and that on-call team has an on-call rotation. She can see who the expert is that is on call for that. Patrick is primary and Abel is secondary. So she's going to contact Patrick, right? And she's just going to say, hey, like, looks like something bad's going on here. Can you take a look at this? So she's got issues with the e-commerce and cart service, and can you take a look at it? So she starts that discussion, sends that over to Patrick, and then she's going to give Patrick some time to go through and review and resolve the issue. So now I'm going to shift gears to Patrick. So Patrick is a service reliability engineer on a team that is assigned to manage the cart service. And so Patrick, his standard view into the service operations workspace is more defined specifically to his services that his team is responsible for, which ones have active incidents, and which ones are currently at risk, right? So he has one service that is showing with its reliability level at risk right now. So he's going to go and look in that, and he will dive into that in particular, right? And actually, sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit. We're pretending that he looked at his chat message first and then jumped into it. I jumped ahead of myself. So he'll look at this chat, he'll open this record, and he'll look at that. He'll dive into this cloud service and see that things are going badly. So he's going to try and figure out exactly what's going on. So at this point, same kind of thing. He can see here's what's going on. Let's go and look at these alerts. This is a significant number of alerts. Let's jump into this parent alert and see if it's got any details here. Again, this is where he can use Gen AI in order to analyze those alerts and figure out what's going on. He can go back to the service and look at these reliability metrics, and he can dive in to see, what's going on. Have we burned through our error budget? No, we're okay. We've got some error budget remaining, um, but we still are at risk, and so this is definitely something that needs to be looked at, needs to be addressed, and then from there, he'll dive in and do more of your traditional IT operations management workflow where he'll attempt to resolve the issue that's going on. That's not the key portion of the demonstration today. So I can show you that another time if you'd like. But from here, I'm going to shift gears and talk about like how do we configure this process? What does that step look like? And we'll go from there. So I'm gonna shift gears into this is an admin now. I'm now a platform admin and I am going to log in and configure the service operations workspace in order to enable service reliability management for various teams. So this in this particular version, we've actually changed the name of this tile in later versions. It's called service reliability management, and here it's called service operations management. We'll go ahead and click configure there. And this is the ability to assign an additional admin. So this is great because when we start going back to that kind of distributed model and understanding how do we provide guardrails for the platform owners to ensure that things are centralized and standardized, they can provide those guardrails, but they don't have to do all the work themselves, right? The platform owners and the platform owner teams can assign additional admins to be SRM admins who can then do all the necessary configuration and management within SRM for other teams, for their own team, for all those capabilities. So quickly and easily, you can add in a new user. And actually, I think both of me, yeah, I can add in Able as an additional admin for SRM. Couple of other key things to talk about in here is activating teams and services. And I'm just really quickly, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through and actually activate all these teams and show all these things. So I'll just kind of walk you through what the process looks like and what you can expect. So that way we can shift into more of the kind of process owner configuration and show you some of those components as well. So from here, you can activate an additional team. So any team that is listed within the ServiceNow platform, you can add them in and say, okay, I want to find any team whose name contains, and I'll have to see if I might have all of the SRE teams already activated. Yep. So we'll just, right. So we could add in the App Engine admins as a team that would have SRM, right? Or let's see, I think we have a user auth team. Yep. So we can studio restricted users, any of these teams, generally you would have a team that would be specifically created for managing that app. You can add them on. Once you do that, you can then activate a service. So you can say, here's existing services that should also be activated. Right now, we just have ServiceNow Event Management. So this is if you want to activate a service for SRM in a more centralized manner. I'm going to show you how to add and activate a service in a more distributed manner as an SRM team admin in just a few minutes. Another couple of quick pieces to walk through here. There are some built-in governance capabilities, and this is actually a place where we're making some kind of shifts in the next couple of versions as well. We're going to streamline some of these processes and make it easier to build out and configure more capabilities within this authentication and authorization piece. So right now, we've got service governance here. This is which team needs to be given the approval authority if an existing CMDB service wants to be associated with an SRM team, right? So it doesn't stop them. This one doesn't stop them from creating a new service. It just requires approval on an existing service. This check mark here enables you to say, hey, somebody has to approve it if you're going to create a whole new service. Again, it's those governance and guardrail pieces. You can just turn them loose and let them create whatever services they want, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. But also you can bring that back and say, hey, we need to have some centralized approval and governance around this service creation process. So we're only going to have certain approvers allow that. Also, team governance is a big piece that we're changing, so I'm not going to deep dive on this too much. But just suffice to say, in this version, there's a catalog item that you can create and build that will enable users to request access for their team. And early in 26, we're actually going to do, and I'll talk about this a little more later, we're actually going to do another power workshop where you'll get to go hands-on with the new version of service reliability management. And we'll walk you through step by step. Everybody will get their own instance, and we'll walk you through step by step configuring all of these things. So stay tuned for that. We'll include in the wrap up where to get information on that. And then there's this centralized error budget management capability. And I'll just quickly highlight this. This shows the flow designer flow on the back end that is called when error budget thresholds are are breached and what policy actions should be taken. And this is an out-of-the-box flow, but as usual, there's ways that you can tweak and configure this for your own particular organization. And then, so let's see. All right, so let's now go and look at what it looks like from a process team or a team owner, right? So I'm going to shift gears to be Lee Chen, um, who is an application team owner and who is responsible for multiple applications and has a team that he's working with and working on. So right now, he doesn't have any services that are critical or at risk or anything like that. He has currently got one team defined for him. And so I'll kind of dig in and show you what this looks like and walk through the process. Again, if you come to one of the power workshops, you'll get hands-on and be able to actually build out this team and build out how the whole process looks. So this is the kind of like the guided setup portion from a team here, and we can kind of dig in and add more information and more detail here. You know, we can add more members to the team here if we really want. We've already got this portion completed. We can go back to the configuration. We can assign additional services. We have oh, my typing is wrong, payment service. But we already have the payment service associated with it, and it's already built and set up there. Um, and so um, we can kind of walk through that. So one of the key points about this is setting up your on-call schedules and managing that rotation. Again, as I was explaining earlier, this is a core ServiceNow platform capability. So I'm not going to dive into it too much, but I'll kind of just at a high level show you. Right now we have this SRE Ops monthly schedule that we can dig into. And you can see that if we click on that pencil there to edit it, here's the details of the schedule. It's an all-day shift. You can see who the members are that I've built out, and you can add another rotation if you want. And then I've added in already a couple of escalation policies, which is a default policy called rotate through members. And I'll kind of show you what those look like here in just a second. So we've got this quick overview schedule that's built into here. This is a standard part of the service operations workspace, but service reliability management takes heavy use of this. So one of the things that we can then do is build out these escalation triggers and escalation policies. And this is another really powerful piece within the service reliability management components, right? The ability for teams to say, hey, I want to build an escalation trigger that does X and have full autonomous control over that is really, really powerful. So for instance, right here, we've got, okay, I want to escalate all of my P1 incidents, right? And just like in the rest of the platform, your order is numeric. And then here are the conditions. It's if an incident, and we can set this to severity right? If severity is high, right, then we want to escalate that. And then under the advanced options, the workflow that we're using in this particular case is the out-of-the-box on-call, assign, and notify workflow. This means it assigns it to the person and actually notifies them using the notify capability, which is configurable. So we can save that trigger and looks great. And then same thing with P1 alerts. This one triggers off of the alert table, right? So if we're ingesting alerts from our various different integrations, they go into the alert table, and this is where those triggers can take effect, right? So in this particular case, severity is critical, state is not closed, and we use the exact same workflow, on call, assign, and notify. So we've got two escalation builds outs here. We can absolutely add more triggers. We can have any and all conditions that you want that you can imagine. All the rest of the normal conditions that you would expect are available here. So, kind of your creativity is the limitation of what you want to build out and do here from a trigger perspective. So, um, let's look at the policy. So by default, all of these groups all come with an escalation policy that says rotate through members, right? And what that means is it's just going to rotate through until it finds somebody that's actually going to acknowledge it and go forward. So the escalation steps right now, and we can quickly edit this, are, it starts with the primary as order number one, and then you go to that, and then they get two reminder notifications within 15 with a 15-minute interval, and then it'll move on to the next person, right? And then you can add in escalation steps if you want. You can go further and further and have a lot more control over that. I'm not here to show you all the options, just give you some things to think about. The other important piece here is the escalation notifications, right? Right now I have only mobile app notifications set up, but you can email, call, SMS, all of the options that are available with the Notify plugin flow into here as well. The mobile app is a game changer for us in the last, for like, I think 6 months to a year, where we now have this mobile app integration so we can directly push into users' mobile phones. It requires a lot less setup. It's more akin to other solutions out there in the marketplace, so it's really good. The other piece that I really like is this override user preferences. Just like in the notify module, users can go say, hey, here's how I want to be notified. But you can say, if this is getting escalated, I want to override those notifications and we're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? Chase them until somebody responds to get the job done. So we've kind of talked through the trigger rule. One really quick thing to catch is there are these trigger rules that get created in the on-call scheduling when you create those trigger rules. And by default, the trigger when group assign changes is not set to true out of the box, which will mean that if an assignment group changes, it will not notify those folks. So we need to be able to actually enable that so that you just come in here, you click on those rules, and then you click this checkbox here that says trigger when group assign changes, and then click update, good to go. So you want to do that on any and all new trigger rules that you create as part of that process. So once we've got that set up, I'm going to jump back into the Service Operations Workspace, and I'll show you a little bit about the service setup for a team, right? So we have this existing service called the payment service, which is horribly misspelled. Um, and right now it's currently showing stable, right? Because I haven't pushed any alerts into it. There's nothing going on there. But we can get in here and we can get into the details of the service. Let's see, I wonder if I can fix that name. Um, so we can get into the details of the service. We can understand what's going on. Whether we can update the environment, whether it's in production, all the standard service management capabilities. If we've service mapped it out, that'll pop up in here. Where it's really important is in service reliability management, just like we were talking about earlier around service level objectives and service level indicators. We need to create a service level objective for our services. And then we need to, because remember, service level objective is when we take action. And then service level indicator is what are we measuring, right? So service level objective is I've now got this built out right now that it's got actually it's kind of interesting. There we go. It's a four nines availability, right? So 99.99% availability calculated on a month to month basis, right? Which means every month we get 4 minutes and 19 seconds of downtime for that particular service, and we're still within our service level objective, right? So that's our service level objective for the payment service. And then here's kind of a nice quick overview of where it's sat, what it's been doing, any alerts that are coming in, what is your burn rate looking like, what's your error budget that's being used up. All of these things are really critical for informing your organization on the health of the service, how it's doing with leading indicators as opposed to lagging indicators. And then also, should we be accelerating our pace of change or we should be decelerating our pace of change in order to make sure that we're not burning through our service level objectives? So, how do we measure that is by creating service level indicators. And in this particular case, what we've done is we've created a service level indicator that is based on the metric name, and the configuration item is a payment service. And actually, I created this wrong. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to quickly add a new service to this team. So we're going to create a new service and we're going to call it Payment Service 2. So I think we got a minute. And we're going to say it's Business Critical 1. And we're going to say it's operational. And we're going to assign the SRE Ops team to be the support group for that service because we're already in that SRE Ops team. So we'll continue to the setup for this service. And I can show you this setting up an alert data source. So this is pretty quick and easy for right now. We're just going to use this ServiceNow Cloud Observability data source. We're going to call it PS2, funny, Payment Service 2, alert data. Okay. And then we'll save it. And what this is going to do is this is basically going to set up a pre-built webhook that's listening for a specific payload, and it'll attach those alerts to this payment service. And so that's now set up. We'll go ahead and activate that, and it'll be set and ready to go to ingest data into this service to be able to inform the health of this service based on those alerts that get pushed in to this. And you can see the associated services here is Payment Service 2. So now that we've got that done, now we can go in and set up the reliability metrics. So we'll set up a service level objective and we'll call it PS2 SLO. And we'll say it's based on availability, right? We have multiple options here: availability, errors, latency, saturation. And we're going to say by duration. And again, we're going to say it's 4 nines, and it's on a month by month basis. And now we're going to create an SLI for that, right? So we're going to call it PS2 availability SLI. And so we're going to say the configuration item is payment service 2. And we're going to say the metric name. Oops, man, my typing is on point today. All right, metric name is availability. Okay. And then we're going to create an error budget policy. So we're going to add a threshold to say once the error budget has been consumed 50%, then I want to create an incident and send an email to somebody. Let me save that. And now we've just created this service level objective, this service level indicator, and this error budget policy all really quickly and easily as remember, I'm an application owner right now. I'm an SRE team member manager that's setting all of this stuff up all on their own. So now it's in draft mode, but we're going to go ahead and just activate it, say it all looks good. And now we've just built that whole process out, and we can actually go through and set up any other information that we want to ingest in. We can start tracking and managing all those components. I know we've only got about 8 minutes left. I wanted to just quickly check in and see if there are any questions in the Q&A that I haven't gotten to yet that we should be diving into.
I think the team has answered majority of the questions.
Okay.
So since we can look at some Q&A. Oh, the team is working on it now.
Yep.
That being said, Mike, I thought that was awesome. We got a lot of questions. We got a lot of feedback in the chat as well. That being said, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen to get to the last poll we have.
Okay.
And after this session, are you more likely to adopt and mature your use of SOW? I know that was super technical. We had questions about major incident, which was a great correlation. We had questions about how does licensing work, but we were able to answer those questions. And I see that some people are unsure if they're able to adopt or mature the use of SOW. But ITOM and ITSM working together in service reliability management is something that is complicated, and it somewhat requires some maturity of your organization or not. It depends on where you are and what you focus on with the organization. But we did get some unshores at this point, and that's probably maybe the maturity of the actual application of the platform of ServiceNow, or some processes. But we did get some yeses. So 48 yeses that after this session, you're more likely to adopt, mature your use of SOW. So this was awesome. Let me see if there are any leftover questions. And
Actually,
I'll
there's one thing that I need to call out. I forgot to
oh,
explicitly state that you need to install the Service Reliability Management plugin in your instance if you want to test this out and use it. So there was a great question in Q&A, and I was like, "Oh, geez, man, I can't believe I forgot that." So it is free, Lisa, as long as you already own IT operations management. Man, I think it's ITOM. AI Ops Pro, but I don't quote me on that. We'll get back to
You're
you on that.
you're right.
okay,
You're
there
right.
we
It's pro. Pro
Okay.
or higher.
hmm
Yep, and I think there was several questions around that, and we answered that in the FAQ.
Okay.
So it's okay. And then we do have some resources, and I will put that in the chat, or
hmm
actually we'll share this afterwards in our landing page. But I just want to make sure that we have the resources there that you guys can reference.
Thank you guys very much for coming and joining us today. It's always fun to sit down and talk about things like that, especially when, it would have saved me a lot of pain and headache in past lives. So I appreciate that. In addition to that, just really quickly, short plug, Will and I run a show called Beers with Engineers. That's all about the intersection of ServiceNow and cloud native technologies. There's a link to that in the slide deck, as well as we're actually out on the ServiceNow community YouTube channel with the whole playlist of all of our past shows. And we have actually covered service reliability management in the past, and we'll probably do another update about that in the future. So come join us, drink a beer, and talk about, nerdy ServiceNow things. It's good times.
I just want to close out too by saying what Kevin has put in the chat. SOW has grown a massive amount since its inception. It has, ServiceNow has been working hard to ensure that we're able to just have SOW be as productive as possible for any organization that utilizes it for most ITSM and ITOM things. So thank you so much. And this was awesome. I hope everyone has a great day.